For this assignment, I'd like you to download, slice, and print another model from Thingiverse. You can choose any model you wish, but there are a couple considerations to keep in mind when slicing your model, which I'll demonstrate now. For my example, I'm going to search for a gecko. There's a nice little model here. I'll choose that one. Scroll down to Thing Files, and I've got options. Notice that here I have different file types, IGS, STEP, but the file type that we want is STL. So I'm going to download that one. And then in WeBuilder, I'll choose File, Open File, select the file that I just downloaded, and click Open. We can see that there are some problems here. Pressing down on my touchpad with 2 fingers, I can rotate around the image to get a better look, but you can see that it's rotated at an angle. The flat side is not down on the bed, so I need to change that. I'll click on the image and I can use this arrow. I'll click and you notice the degrees are being incremented as I move my cursor. So I want to rotate, in this case, 90 degrees. There we go. And now if I rotate around the model to look at it, it looks like it's nice and flat and centered on the print bed. But if I look at it sideways too, the other thing I'm looking at is this area here. This is an unsupported area. Remember that the way the printer works is that it starts with the first layer and it moves up layer by layer. So if there are any unsupported areas, as under the chin here, the filament may just sag down because there's nothing to hold it up. So we may need supports in that area. But I'm going to click Slice and take a look at it. Using the layer slider on the right-hand side, I'm going to go down through the model and see what it looks like. If I scroll in closely, you can actually see this blue area here. That's indicating that some support material was automatically added for the very bottom of that lizard chin. So that one area was too steep of an overhang to be printed without supports. The reason the supports didn't generate for the rest of the chin is because this is a shallow enough overhang that the print will be able to support itself as it moves up. Generally speaking, you can get away with a 45-degree angle, and that angle there looks like it's just about 45 degrees, so we might be okay. But I'm noticing something else as I use my slider. You can see that the inside of this model is completely hollow. And as I go up, you can see like this layer here is printing right out in open space. There's nothing to hold up that part of the print, those layers that are being printed. So that's going to be a problem. When the printer moves out into open space and lays down this plastic, that plastic's just going to sag down because there's nothing to hold it up. We can see why there's no internal structure here by going up and clicking Slicing Settings. And if we look at infill density, the default is to have 0 infill. Generally speaking, that's not a good idea. You can get away with that sometimes, but not often. So instead, I'm going to change that to 15% and click the X. Now up here, the model view icon, I'm going to click that to go back to the solid model. And now I'll click Slice again to reslice. I'll use the slider to go back down. And now you can see what happens is this infill is being printed. It's mostly air. There's only 15% of solid plastic inside. The rest of the interior of the model is 85% air. But there's enough support there so that when these layers here are printed, they'll have something to rest on. Although not that piece right there. We can see that that is still out in thin air. This part is fine because it's bridging over those areas of support, but this curve that comes out is completely unsupported. So I'm going to go back to the solid model, click on Settings again, and I'm going to up this to, let's say, 25%. Close that, click Slice again, and use the slider to go down to see what it looks like. Okay, so now you can see that this is being supported. It's still a curve here, so there might be a little bit of sagging going on, but probably not enough to damage the model. And the next layer goes out a little more. That again may sag a little bit, but then that next layer is just solid all the way across. So that should be fine as this prints up. So this is a case where looking at the model layer by layer can be helpful to avoid any problems. And again, we have that little bit of support was automatically generated. If you go into slicer settings and look under support, you can see that adding supports automatically is the default setting for this slicer. And that's a good idea to have that turned on so that it will automatically add that little bit of support. So just as with the raft, you can peel the raft away from your printed model. When it's done, the supports will also break off. Once you're satisfied with your settings, click the save icon, choose your SD card, give your file a name, and I like to include the print time as well so that I know this is 40 minutes. And I know that because down in the bottom of the screen, you can see printing time 40 minutes. And click save and OK. If I look on my SD card, you can see the file that we just saved from WeBuilder. It's a G-code file. A G-code file is the instructions that tell the printer how to print your model. Now I'll eject my SD card, plug it into the printer, turn on the printer, load filament, and start the print, and then we'll see what we get. Here's the finished print. Take it off the print bed and take the raft off. And the bottom of the chin looks fine. If you look very carefully on your raft, you can see the tiny little support that was printed. It's over by my thumb. That little piece was just underneath the very bottom of the chin where the overhang was steepest. And we can also see that there was no sagging of the top part of the model, so it's a successful print. Now take a photo of your print and post it to the assignment in Brightspace.